Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining our second virtual travel club. This is the second series and the second episode. Last couple of weeks ago, we took you to Latin America, showing you all the wonderful active ways that you could explore Central and South America. But today, we're going to be exploring the culinary side of Latin America. And joining us this evening, live from the Journey Latin America headquarters, is none other than Lina Fuller and Hannah Waterhouse. They're two of our best travel experts, and they're two of our biggest foodies as well. So we thought that they would make the perfect pair to talk us about all the wonderful delights that the region has to offer. Also, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joining us this evening. Roberto, who was going to join us from Mexico, who's sadly unable to join us now this afternoon, but joining us live from Merida is Carolina Cardenas. She's the former Minister for Tourism for the Yucatan Peninsula, and she's also the owner of Hacienda Teya, and she's going to be telling us all about the wonderful food in the Yucatan and what you could expect to enjoy on a visit there. There will be time for questions and answers at the end of this session, so please do feel free to use the Q&A box to put any burning questions that you may have about the food of Latin America. And that's it. Without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Lina and Hannah, and off you go.
Great, thanks very much, Laura. I'm Hannah, this is Lina. We both work in the sales team at Journey Latin America. For those of you who haven't seen our presentations before, we're a small travel company. We've been working in Journey Latin America for over 40 years, dealing with both tailor-made holidays and group tours. So just a little kind of brief bit about us, but we'd like to start off with some of the highlights of Latin American food. So I'm going to begin by talking a little bit about the origins of some of the food from Latin America, things that we know pretty well here in Europe and around the world, but actually kind of have their origins in the Americas. Probably one of the most famous things that people know about are the potatoes, peppers, chilies, tomatoes, beans. Corn has always been really important for various foodstuffs in Latin America. Chocolate, and of course the almost ubiquitous avocado as well. In addition, things like yuca, cassava, quinoa, all things that have their origins in the Americas, which are kind of widespread today. There are also other ingredients which are kind of very endemic to Latin America, but may not be known very widely elsewhere, such as achiote. Achiote is a small kind of shrub, which is used a lot in cooking. The food you can see there down at the bottom is cochinita pibil, a kind of famous Mexican dish which is used with achiote. It's also used in the rainforest as well as medicine and to ward off evil spirits. So this is something you'll come across in Central and North and South America as well. Everybody's favorite, chocolate. Chocolate's has got a long history, kind of starting with the Olmecs, kind of maybe 4,000 years ago, and then going to the Mayans and Aztecs, originally used as a drink, but now obviously kind of widely used for kind of all different chocolates. You can see here in Mexico, they're using it for the skulls to celebrate Day of the Dead. And it's kind of widespread now throughout the more tropical countries of Latin America. Ecuador is really well known for its really good chocolates. And
Bariloche.
And Bariloche.
Yes, in Argentina.
and Venezuela, when you can get some stuff out of them as well. But yeah, another famous product. Here's a scene for one of the markets that Lina took. Where was this again?
Yeah, this one was in Chiapas.
Chiapas.
Yeah, so
in Mexico.
Mexico.
So you can see the kind of abundance of fruit and vegetables you get there. Something else we kind of associate with the Americas is chilies or chili peppers. These are widely used, fresh ones, dried ones. If you have a look at the picture down there, you can see the dried chilies in the market in Oaxaca in Mexico. There's also a dish right there with a stuffed pepper, rocoto relleno, which is a specialty of Peru. Interestingly, although the chilies are widely used throughout Latin America, this food is not necessarily very spicy. If you see the kind of selection of sauces you have there, the sauce de habanero, what tends to happen is that you either have sauces in the bottles or freshly made in little pots next to it, where you help yourself so you can tailor the cuisine to kind of to your own taste. So it's not always spicy, but you can definitely add spicy sauce to pep it up a bit. Potatoes, very famously from the Andean region. Depending on whether you speak to the Peruvians or the Chileans, they're part of the Andes, but over 4,000 varieties of potato, not just kind of the regular ones we have here, which are kind of yellow, but pink and purple ones as well. Widely used in cuisines throughout the Andean region, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela, and down into Chile. So some of the typical dishes we have here, you'll see in the clay pot at the bottom is a soup called Achiote, which is well known in Colombia. Next to it, this small one is called a causa or causa limeña, which is a Peruvian dish with mashed potato, peppers, avocado. So all of these endemic fruits and vegetables we've been talking about, with sometimes chicken or tuna, depending on who's making it. And at the top, you've got another special dish from northern Peru called carapulcra, which uses dried potato. So something quite unusual and different. So you'll find a lot of potato-based dishes in the Andean region. Here's another market scene, one of Lina's pictures.
This one is in Chichicastenango in Guatemala, perhaps one of the most exciting markets where I have been. So yeah, that's a one to visit for sure.
Beans is another staple throughout Latin America. Probably the only countries which don't have it as a daily diet would be the southern cone, kind of Argentina and Uruguay. But throughout Central America and northern South America, you'll find it for most meals. So up at the top, you've got a classic Costa Rican dish of gallo pinto, rice and beans with a few peppers and herbs. Below it, refried beans, often used in Mexico with tacos, and the famous Brazilian feijoada, which Laura's going to tell you about in a little bit as well. And corn is hugely important throughout Central America and going into the north of South America as well. A bit like potatoes, you've got hundreds of varieties in all different colors. It tends not to be eaten on the cob so much like we do here. It tends to be kind of ground and used in various forms. So the picture at the top, for example, you have arepas, which are very common in Colombia and Venezuela, served with most meals. They're generally served plain, but you can sometimes get ones stuffed with cheese, which are really delicious. Kind of at the bottom there, wrapped in the corn leaf, is a tamale, which Lina's going to go into a bit more detail. And then more tortillas as well. Again, Mexico for the tacos, etc. So hugely important. This is a little picture that Lina and I took of our lunch in Oaxaca, or the north of Oaxaca in the mountains, to kind of give you an idea of all the different dishes on offer. Stews, soups, vegetables, chorizo. It looks a bit rustic, but it was really delicious, wasn't it?
It was really good. The place was called Pueblos Mancomunados.
And then obviously there are also foods which have been brought into Latin America as well, which are now widely spread throughout modern Latin American cuisine. So the Spanish and the Portuguese brought over livestock, cows and pigs. So you'll see a lot of meat on the menu, especially in the south. The French and Spanish brought over the grapes as well. So we'll go into that a little bit later. Coffee from Africa. And then there's also influences, so from Africa, especially in northern Brazil, where a lot of slaves were brought over to work on the sugarcane plantations. You'll notice that there's a big African influence on the food there. Again, Laura will go into this in a bit more detail. And a lot of influence from Asia. You'll see a lot of rice eaten throughout Latin America. And Sao Paulo's got one of the biggest Japanese communities outside of Japan. So yeah, Asian food is kind of widespread now in Latin America. Add to that cheese, the sugarcane we talked about earlier, and beer. These are all kind of widely found throughout Latin America and used in all the cuisine. Got another market scene.
That picture was taken in Sucre in Bolivia. So
And then we'll move on to the meat, which famously, if you go to Argentina, Uruguay, or southern Brazil, is going to be one of the main staples of the menu, and it's delicious. You'll see the bottom picture there. Is a picture from the Montevideo market. When you go there, there's just loads of these stalls, all selling different types of meats, different cuts, and it's definitely not to be missed. You've got the gaucho barbecues that you'll find in the south of Argentina and Chile, a lot of lamb and goat. As well, you've got the taco meat up there for the tacos al pastor from Mexico. So yeah, a great feast, and definitely worth trying if you're kind of down in the south. Here's a picture of the gauchos down in Patagonia, rounding up their sheep. And then fish. So whilst Argentina is famous for its meat, Chile is actually probably more famous for its fish, having its massively long Pacific coastline. You'll see at the top there that the king crabs used to make delicious dishes. All the fish in the fish markets in Chile. Lobsters there, speciality of Belize, definitely worth having in season. And then obviously kind of all the dishes, kind of this is a little bit kind of like sashimi, but the whole Pacific coastline, the Atlantic as well, but the Pacific seems to be really kind of full of different varieties of fish. So Peru, Chile, the Central American countries, you'll find lots of options. And I'm going to pass you over to Lina to go over a few more regional dishes.
Okay, I have been asked to talk about some of my favorite foods in Latin America, so I'm quite good. It's good to introduce you to some of to the most iconic dishes that if you go to Latin America, you have to try for sure. So mole poblano is number one. This is Mexican, is the Mexican national dish. And you find it mainly in the towns of Puebla and Oaxaca. It's one of the most complicated dishes, I would say, to prepare because it has more than 20 different ingredients. So you can always give it a go if you want if you are for the challenge. But I recommend you just go there and try because it's fantastic. The main combination is chiles and chocolate and spices. So it is a very acquired taste, but it's definitely one of the most, it's something that is difficult to describe, basically. You just have to try. When you are in Mexico, another thing that you have to do is, if you can, is go during the Day of the Dead to Mexico. That's on 1st and 2nd of November. This is celebrated not only in Mexico, but Guatemala and different countries in Central America. But in Mexico, it's quite famous for all the different dishes that they prepare. So they have all this chocolate and sugar skulls. The colors have meanings, and depending on which color, you have certain, I don't know, kind of, meaning of what you want to relate. This is a celebration for Mexicans. So it's a time when they share a day with the loved ones. So it's a time to remember. And they remember as well with food. The bread, for example, the pan de muerto, is something that you only eat at this time of the year. And it's something that you have to try with hot chocolate. And definitely that's something great to have at that time. This is another one of my pictures. This one is in Bolivia. And of course, you have here the famous potatoes that you see everywhere. For me, one of the most incredible dishes as well is pupusas in El Salvador. It's a kind of a stuff, it's thick, it's made with corn, it's a thick tortilla, let's call it. And they just fill it up with beans, refried beans, with chicharrón, with a lot of different things, but it's something that they eat everywhere in El Salvador. I was in a class when I was learning how to prepare it. So of course, I I just wanted to try the ones that they gave me more than the one that I made. That was but it was it's an incredible thing. And you see, it's a street food, it's local street food. Everyone's eat it in El Salvador. So that's a one to try. Gallo pinto is the famous dish of Costa Rica. They normally give it for breakfast. Gallo pinto is translate a spotted rooster. And the history comes, although it's not just for Costa Rica, I want to say, Nicaragua as well claimed to be the owner of Gallo Pinto. So you have to try both to see which one is best. But the story says that it was a guy who just had roosters in his house, and he invited some people, and then it was a lot of a big gathering just got around. And then he panicked and he just mixed some rice and beans and then put it together, and that was it. So, but yeah, that's kind of the thing. In Cuba, ropa vieja is supposed to be the main dish of the country, although they claim to be the national dish. But in fact, when I was doing my research, I found out that it's the national dish of the Canary Islands. So it comes from there, basically. And again, it is a pork stew with, normally served with rice. And as well, they accompanied this food with something that they call moros and cristianos. Moros and cristianos, it relates from the Spanish. Moros being the Moors, yeah. And Christians, basically, that's the meaning, which is, again, rice and beans. So there you go, more or less the same dish in the whole of Central America and the Caribbean as well. This market was in La Paz, again, very colorful. So if you go to El Alto in La Paz, this is the scenes that you see in the street normally. Arepas, again, this is another war between Colombia and Venezuela to see who owns this dish. But saying this, it used to be one country during the colony times. So at the end of the day, it comes from both places. What is the difference? The difference is that in Venezuela, they stuff the arepa. Arepa is made with corn. So they stuff the arepa and they have different names for everyone. For example, they have one arepa is called the upper class girl, which means ham and cheese. So that's kind of the names that they put. Or another one is the hairy arepa, which is shredded beef. So there you go. Colombians are more simple how to name arepas. Arepa with cheese, arepa with eggs, arepa de huevo, arepa con queso. So it's just easy in Colombia, let's say. Curanto is a very famous dish of Chile. And it's quite it's one of the most ancient dishes in the Americas. They have found pits of clay in the ground by archaeologists quite old, basically. I believe that it's about 6,000 years or something, one of them that they found. So it's one of those dishes when before the indigenous, it was cooked. How is this cooked? This is a combination of seafood and meat. And basically what they do is that they dig a hole in the ground and they put the stones and then they cover it with reefs. And then basically the mariscos or the shells, the seashells release all the juices and steam the meat and they cook it. This is a famous dish of the island of Chiloé in Chile. So it's the only place where you can go and try. Ceviche is the national dish of Peru, but it's done everywhere, I would say, in the Americas anyway. It started with the fishermen of the ancient cultures. But then it kind of become what it is now when the Spanish arrive and they bring lemons from India, and then the lemon, they learn that the lemon cure the fish. So that's more or less the history behind. But it became quite famous when the Japanese arrived to Peru later. So they make it because they are used to fish and sashimi and sushi and so on. Then they made it, perhaps, they perfected the recipe and made known worldwide. In places like Mexico, they sell it with tortillas, or they can sell it in tacos as well. This is a market in the town of Mérida. We're going to talk to Carolina later, and she can tell us everything about the markets in Mérida. So empanadas is next, and empanadas comes from Spain. Oh no, in the first empanada I was reading that it comes from Persia. So yeah, it's kind of an ancient as well type of dish. Empanadas became very famous in Latin America because of the Spaniards. They brought all these dishes, but I think that we have perfected the recipe in Latin America. You have them fried, you have them in the oven, you have them for vegetarians with cheese, for example, that could be an option. Or you have them, the most famous ones are the fillings with beef. The ones of Chile are huge, they are very huge size. The ones in Argentina are small, so you can have a couple. And the ones in Colombia, for example, they are very tiny, very small. So just small bites, and that's it. Tamales is is perhaps as well one of the most ancient dishes as well. Is recorded to be used or to be eaten by the Olmecs or the Toltecs in Mexico. They wrap these corn dishes. It's mainly made with corn and meat and a lot of different vegetables. And they tend to wrap in banana leaves or corn leaves. And they used to, it was a dish that used to kept for long journeys. So they used to stuff various tamales in their sack and then travel around the country, so things. So it was saying that when the Spanish arrived to Mexico, the first dish that they received was tamal. So again, this is another market in Bolivia, in La Paz, on my recent trip. So that was in the streets of El Alto. And then tacos. Tacos is perhaps, we now see a lot of taquerias here in the UK. It's becoming quite famous everywhere. But basically it's made with corn. Again, quite an ancient recipe. But I think that tacos have been perfected recently. It used to be a meal for the silver mines. It used to be classed as, it started as a street food and now has become a worldwide dish. It's basically a very simple dish, very cheap, and you can and it's perfect for every time of the day. So it's great to go out for drinks and just have tacos in the evening. And here I pass you to Laura a little bit because she knows Brazil quite well. So.
Hi, Lina. Thank you, Hannah. So, yeah, Brazil, the reason why I know Brazil quite well is because my mother is Brazilian, and I was very fortunate to go to Rio de Janeiro and spend many summer holidays there. So I've been very fortunate to try lots of lovely restaurants and food from lots of home cooking as well. Brazil obviously is a massive, massive country, and the variety of food that you'll find there is hugely varied. But one dish that brings the country all together is the national dish, which is called feijoada. It's the image in the right-hand corner you have here. And feijoada is a stew, a bean stew, with a mix of different types of meat, typically pork. And the dish originates from when the African slaves were brought over from Angola and Mozambique to work on the sugarcane plantations. the landowners would give them the staple rice and beans, and then they would give them scraps of the pig, so pig's trotters, for example, and pig's ears, and so poor cuts of meat. And they would basically, this is where the dish originated from. They created this stew, and of course nowadays it's considered, it's the equivalent of a Sunday roast in Brazil, although typically eaten on a Saturday. It's quite a heavy dish as well, so you probably need a siesta after eating feijoada. But it's a delicious bean and pork stew, and now of course you'll find that it's made with nicer, more better quality cuts of meat. But they still use pig's trotters, and they use that to give you that lovely thick sauce. It's always served with farofa. So farofa is like it's this dish that you can see in the middle. Farofa is made from cassava. Hannah mentioned that at the beginning. So cassava is a root vegetable, and what they do is they grind it down and then they fry it with onion and garlic, and they add parsley, and sometimes they add raisins or egg, and it's like a crumb texture, and that works really well when you're having this stew. It's also always served, of course, with white rice and spring greens, very, very finely shredded, and it's absolutely delicious, a dish that you must not miss when you on any holiday to Brazil. But as we were saying, that Brazil is made up now of many different cultures, indigenous cultures, European influences, the Africans as well. In the northeast of Brazil, there's a very heavy large African population with massive influences there. And you'll find in the northeast stews made of coconut milk and palm oil. The picture above is camarão na moranga. Moranga is the pumpkin, and the stew is cooked inside the pumpkin. And it's typically had with prawns. Moqueca de peixe or moqueca de camarão is another coconut stew with either fish or with prawns, and it's just ever so flavoursome. It's not spicy at all. You can add extra spice to it, but it's really delicious. So it's probably quite similar to a coconut curry, so a mild coconut curry. So yeah, if you like Asian cuisine, you'll definitely enjoy the food of the northeast of Brazil. And then everywhere you go in Brazil, the meats are very famous, and so going to a barbecue or a barbecue restaurant, which is known as a churrascaria, is if you're a meat lover, it's an experience that you'll never forget. Usually, what happens is that you'll go in, and then they'll have a set menu, or you pay one price. And then throughout the whole afternoon, the waiters will go around serving you different cuts of meat. And so you'll have things from chorizo to chicken hearts to some of the most top quality cuts of beef, which includes the picanha, which is a famous rump steak in Brazil. My top tip for eating at a churrascaria in Brazil would be not to wait. They often serve lots of salads and accompaniments and try to fill you up quite quickly. So my top tip would be to hang on and say no to maybe all the sausages and foods that you put barbecue chicken, and wait for the better quality of meats to come out so that you can make the most and enjoy those. My second top tip would be that for a visitor going to Brazil, sometimes it's difficult to know what's in this dish, what's in this stew, or to know what to order from a menu. But local restaurants, and that you'll find them all over, they're called weigh and pay restaurants. And this is a really authentic way to try good Brazilian food, but without having to order a big dish. So it's usually you'll walk in and it'll be a buffet style, and literally you can choose a bit of feijoada stew. You can have a little bit of the camarão na moranga, so you can go around tasting different types of dishes, and it's a really economical way to eat. So you're not only doing something that's very authentic, but you're getting to sample lots of dishes in one go. And that's it for the food of Brazil. And now heading to something a little bit more unusual. So there are some unusual ingredients that you'll find, or food types that you'll find in Latin America, and we've just mentioned a few of them here, which we thought you might enjoy to hear about. Peru and Ecuador, they're very famous for serving guinea pig, and you can see it's actually a picture of Lina's. They're taken on the left, so sometimes it's served like as it is, and it's considered a very an important dish. Usually it's served on a special occasion or to mark a special occasion. Piranha, you wouldn't think of it probably being your sort of your choice of fish to go to at a restaurant, but in the Amazon, it's a very common fish to eat. And in fact, you may find that on a jungle excursion, you're out in the afternoon piranha fishing, and you might be eating that piranha later, either deep fried as it is here, or served in a stew. And piranha is a very fleshy, it's very fleshy in texture, so it's actually a really, really succulent, tasty fish to eat. And now I hadn't heard of these until Lina spoke to me about them earlier today, but the big-bottomed ant is a famous snack to eat in Colombia. I'm going to forget the name in Colombian, so Lina will have to help me out.
Hormigas culonas.
Culonas, yeah. So ants with big bottoms, and they're roasted and often had as a snack with a drink of aguardiente, which is the local firewater, a very, very strong spirit. And in Mexico, you may have heard of chapulines. So chapulines are deep fried grasshoppers. So again, eaten all over Mexico with a snack and a really nice cold beer, and they're very tasty and very crunchy. So lots of interesting dishes for you to explore.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
We're going to move on a little bit to the drink section for Latin America, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the wines and the wineries. So I think probably when you think of wines in Latin America, you'll probably think first of all of the two biggest producers, which will be Argentina and Chile. They are quite different, the wines from both of them, although sometimes the grape varieties are the same. You'll notice if you have a look at the picture in the middle, the top one of the vineyards kind of near Mendoza, the spectacular backdrop of the Andes Mountains, which kind of makes a visit to a Latin American vineyard somewhat different from a European one. But the Andes are pretty important for the way that the wines end up tasting, because in Chile, the winds come off the Pacific and they come straight into the country. So the climate tends to be a bit wetter. The grapes have a different kind of taste to the ones in Argentina, where the Andes are blocking that wind and you kind of get a drier kind of climate. So although they're really not that far apart distance-wise and the grape varieties may be the same, in the end, the wine ends up tasting quite different. There's two main growing areas in Argentina. So if you visit there, there's Mendoza is going to be the most famous one. So kind of on the western side of the country with the backdrop of the Andes. It's quite a large area, and there you're going to have all the kind of classic grape varieties that you'll mostly find in Bordeaux, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and then the famous Malbec as well. So definitely worth a trip to go and kind of try those. If you see the kind of the picture down in the bottom with a white kind of house, this is down in Cafayate. Cafayate is a region up in the northwest of Argentina, not far from Salta. And these have got some very high altitude vineyards. Some of them are over 1,700 meters in height. And again, this is another influence on the wines of Cafayate. So if you have a Cab Sav from Cafayate, it's going to taste different from one from Mendoza, and different again from one from Chile. Cafayate is really well known for a white grape variety, which you really only find in Argentina, called Torrontés. Torrontés it's a very aromatic wine, let's say something like a kind of maybe an Alsace Riesling or Viognier in terms of the kind of the fruitiness. It's not sweet, but it is really delicious and well worth going to. So any trip to Salta, definitely worth going to spend at least a day or so down in Cafayate. In all of these areas, you can stay on or near the vineyards, and you can visit different wineries and sample the different wines. And most of them will have great restaurants where they have wine pairing menus. So for a gastronomic experience, definitely go to a vineyard area because there'll be lots to try. Chile will be, again, as I say, the other main wine producer. Most of their wines tend to come around from what they call the Central Valley. So this is a kind of an area south of Santiago and going west towards the Pacific coast. They've got an area up in the Elqui Valley as well, but Lina's going to talk about that a bit later. So again, Chilean wines, you've kind of got the classic grape varieties, Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, But Carmener is kind of a really well-known grape variety from Chile. This was actually originally a French grape variety, which got wiped out by phylloxera back in the 1800s. And actually they didn't even realize they had it in Chile. They mistook it for a kind of Merlot or something, and eventually they worked out that it was a Carmener. So if you go to Chile, you should try the Carmener because it's no longer grown in France. You can't really get it elsewhere. And it's a really kind of famous wine of the region. So definitely something worth visiting, going for. Uruguay, definitely less well known than the other two, but also actually one of the main wine producing countries of Latin America. The vineyards tend to be towards the kind of west of Colonia, and also around Montevideo. The wine variety here tends to be Tannat. This is a grape variety originally from the Cacao region of France. As the name suggests, it's quite tannic, quite a full-bodied red. So definitely worth going to enjoy with some of that meat that you saw in the previous slide from Montevideo market. Although kind of less developed than in Argentina and Chile, there's a number of vineyards where you can go and stay around Uruguay, and definitely something to go and try. Up and coming regions for wine producing in Latin America, Brazil in the south, Mexico as well, and even more high altitude vineyards in Bolivia. I can't vouch for the quality as much as Argentina and Chile, but if you're there, you should definitely give it a try. Peru as well, that they're not bad, worth going for.
And then I'm going to talk about the spirits and different drinks of Latin America. So tequila and mezcal, definitely from Mexico. It used to be, it's made from the agave plant here on the right-hand corner. And is produced widely in the country. It used to be produced by the Aztecs, but I think the Spanish make it better. Let's say when they kind of arrived to the Americas and they ran out of brandy that they took with them from Spain, and they had to improvise and create this incredible drink. It is well known to drink tequila in small shots with salt and lemon, and just go inside. Perfect. So try tequila. The mezcal is different. Mezcal has something. It has a worm, although it's a larva of a type of a moth. So the only thing with the worm that has the bottles have is that the last one, the one who finished the bottle has to eat the worm. So by the time you finish the bottle, you will be very drunk. So the taste, it will be good. It doesn't matter how it's going to be. Then the next drink or spirit is pisco. It's a big contender. It's a big war between Chile and Peru to see who created this incredible drink. I challenge you all to go to the two countries. I tried them both because I have drank a lot of pisco, and I think that the two are great. So for me, the war doesn't make any sense. So the main difference is that the pisco in Peru has egg whites, while the one in Chile doesn't, and it's only lemon, ice, and sugar. It's great. I did a pisco tasting in Cusco, and if you want to go there, just let us know, and we will book that for you. That's what we want to try, definitely. Famous cocktails in Latin America, you have the mojito, the Cuban, famous Cuban drink. You see them with lemon and mint. The daiquiri is a reminiscence of the 1920s, 1930s of Ernest Hemingway in Cuba. So it kind of brings you to that time. Caipirinha is Brazilian, the national drink of Brazil, made with sugar cane, and definitely another one that you can drink a lot, but then once after a couple, you cannot stand up. So just be careful with that. Canelazo is probably the most, it resembles mulled wine. So for the altitude, for the heat, is a hot drink, and it's made with rum, canela, and spices. So there you go. And for of course, those ones who are on a self-drive holiday and cannot drink, that could be an option. Or who wants to try the huge variety of fruits that are in Latin America. Juices are everywhere and from every type of fruit. Perhaps the more famous is the one in the middle, the chicha morada. Chicha morada is from Peru, and is a morada is purple, so it's a purple corn. Then the one on the bottom, in the middle, is the maracuja, passion fruit. We call it as passion fruit. Again, it started in Brazil, but you can have it everywhere in Latin America. Pineapple, of course, is another one that you should always try. So millions of fruits here. Coffee was brought to the Americas by the Spanish, but I think that we perfected the recipe. I am from Colombia, so definitely is the one of the best ones, I would say. But okay, let's be realistic. It's everywhere else. You can find coffee in Nicaragua, in Costa Rica, Guatemala, Brazil, everywhere. So just go everywhere and try them all. But Colombia is the best one, for sure. And finally, I want to talk about mate. Mate is a drink from Argentina. Argentina, Paraguay, Brazil, Uruguay. And especially in Uruguay, you see them all the time with a flask next to them. They just drink it all the time. It's a wheat, and it has a very special taste. And they drink it is an acquired taste, but they can add sugar if you want. In Paraguay, they add lemonade, and it's called tereré, and it's served cold. But if you are in Argentina, you have to try. So that's for sure. So yeah, here we go. I'm now hungry and thirsty. So thank you very much. Laura.
Thank you so much, Lina. That was fantastic. You're not the only one who's hungry and thirsty. There's some really lovely imagery there, and some lovely new dishes that I certainly haven't tried yet, and I would love to explore. Joining us now from Mexico is Carolina, who's going to tell us a little bit about Yucatecan cuisine. And it's not all about tacos. There's lots of other delicious dishes that you can expect when you visit the Yucatan. So I'm going to hand you over to Carolina now.
Thank you. Am I there?
You go for it, Carolina.
Okay. Well, okay. The Yucatan. Well, I'm in Mérida, which is the capital of the Yucatan. It's the peninsula of Yucatan and the state of Yucatan. Okay, we are in Mérida, like 4 hours away from Tulum, Cancun. We are a very, very nice city, close to 1 million people here in Mérida, and we get a lot of Mexican tourists to Mérida because our food is completely different than the rest food of Mexico. Okay, we do eat tacos, but we don't make tacos. We eat tortillas, corn tortillas, with all our food. Mainly, we eat pork. We saw Lina that showed us the achiote, which is like the anato. It's a red spicy. It's red, but it's not spicy. It's tasteful. So we cook chicken, mostly pork, and with this red anato, makes the food looks red, but not spicy. In the Yucatan, our food, even though we have the chile habanero, always it's in one side. You choose to put chile or not in your food. Okay. So the tortillas, we eat tortillas with everything. It's like another spoon to us, not only like a taco, but we make kind of like a spoon. So we eat Like we have a dish that looks like a lot like a dish in Brazil, which is the puerco, frijol con puerco. It's pork and beans. We eat that on Monday because it's very easy to make. You just put the beans and throw the pork, and later you have a stew with pork and beans, and you make white rice. But also we eat it with tortilla. But as I was saying, I think we're number one in pork. We export pork to Japan, so we have the healthiest pork in Mexico. It's very safe to eat pork here because they taking care very, very good in the pork farms. So we eat pork with the achiote, with tacos, cook it with oil, without cook it underground. We cook a lot of our food underground. And we're famous in Mexico for our panuchos, which is like an open taco with chicken and avocado and lettuce and tomato and jalapeno. So I'm hungry. I'm hungry now after 1 hour listening to incredible food you have in America, and especially in the Yucatan. We have also traditional food that is pre-Hispanic dishes. Like you can eat relleno negro, which is looks a little like the mole that we saw made with chocolate, but this one different with the mole, which is more than 30 ingredients. The relleno negro, it's only like one main burnt pepper. We burn the chiles until they are completely burned, and we make a gravy to cook underground the turkey. So it gets like a spicy black dish, which is the most important pre-Hispanic dish till today for the Mayan people. Like if you are invited to a wedding, to a baptize or a political campaign, they will give you the black relleno negro, which is black stuff, which is turkey. It's delicious. You only eat the relleno negro, turkey in relleno negro with the corn tortillas, and it's great. Also, another pre-Hispanic dish, it's the papazul, which is a word in Maya. Mi papa means something to eat. Azul caballero, which is gentleman food. It's like a taco, but inside it's boiled eggs, chopped boiled eggs, and covered with the squash gravy. But the squash gravy is made by hand, so it's delicious and very, very tasty. And also we have, I think our most elegant dish, it's the queso relleno. The queso relleno comes from the, okay, on the late 1800, well, we export the Heineken, the sisal, which looks like the plant for the tequila, but this one was good to make ropes. So there were ships going to Europe, and when the ships was coming back, they brought Edam cheese, you know, like this big, like a volleyball balloon. It was Edam cheese, and we didn't used to have a fridge. So you need to eat the whole cheese, or somebody discovered to make a hole and carve the cheese until you have a cheese skeleton. And we stuff this cheese skeleton with ground pork, ground beef, raisin, capers, onions, tomatoes. We put everything inside the cheese, and then goes to the steam, and then you cut it in slices, and you have a delicious stuffed cheese with tomato sauce and also with tortillas. So our food is, well, we said we have one different dish for each day of the year. Maybe that's too much, but we do have a lot of different dishes, as the panuchos, albutes, which are like the open tacos that you close to eat. And we usually have for breakfast, for dinner, the panuchos. We have for breakfast many times pork. The tortas, which is like a sandwich of shredded pork. It's very famous with a lot of onions and the chile habanero. So I'm hungry. I'm hungry now.
That's great. Thank you so much, Carolina. I loved hearing about all of those dishes, and it just makes me realize that my next holiday to Mexico, I'm clearly going to have to spend a lot longer than just 2 weeks, so I can try all those different recipes. Well, I just want to thank everybody this evening for joining us. We're going to be wrapping up the event in the next couple of moments. So this is a great opportunity for you to ask us any questions about the region or any questions about the presentation that you've heard this evening. And if there are no questions, we'll just move on. That's absolutely fine, because I also wanted to tell you that we're going to do a pause of the Virtual Travel Club now with Christmas coming up. I'm sure we're all going to be very busy doing lots of shopping and getting ready. So the next Virtual Travel Club is going to actually be on the 11th of January. We hope that you can join us. We're going to have Mary Nelson and Jamie Swan, who's going to be talking to us about celebration holidays. So for anybody who's planning a honeymoon or an anniversary or a special occasion to visit South America, then you'll hear about all the wonderful destinations and how to make that trip really, really special. So once again, thank you very, very much for your joining us this evening. We really hope that you've come away now with lots of lovely, exciting ideas to what you might eat when you go away with us on your next visit. Okay, so thank you once again, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lina. Thank you, Carolina.
Thank
you,
you.
Hannah. Thank you so much for an excellent presentation.
Okay,
Thank you.
I wait for you here.
Okay. Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye
Ciao.
now. Bye-bye.